when you want to. Take that determination to steal what you can and run from the nation.
Radio stations in Grand Theft Auto have always been a surprisingly creative and innovative aspect of the series, my favorite being the GTA San Andreas one. The first installment in the franchise to receive radio stations was, as you might expect, Grand Theft Auto 1. Colin Anderson, a now former Rockstar Games staff member and musician, worked alongside other musicians and audio engineers in Rockstar's audio department to create the soundtrack for GTA 1.
We were creating snippets of tracks in order to test out what kind of music we would put in this, because the plan originally was first of all to use MIDI for the soundtrack, use MIDI instruments. In the process of going through it, we started to pick up, so these ones sounded like dance tracks, these ones sounded like techno, these ones sounded like pop. Suddenly when I was listening to it, I just went, you know, these would be great if you just separate them out into radio stations. And you saw Craig's eyes light up, and it was that reflection of me saying it, which I wasn't really thinking about, and seeing Craig's reaction to it, that made me pause and think, actually, that would work pretty well, wouldn't it? And from there, it was just one of those moments where you realise the idea fitted the context of the game, and that was the thing that really makes the idea special, I think, is not because it's a great idea in and of itself, but it was the perfect idea for that game at that time.
The game had a total of 7 radio stations, averaging 3 songs each. Now this was due to technical limitations at the time, and as a result, one station, the Fergus Buckner Show FM, only had 1 song playing on a continuous loop. And the station itself even acknowledges this and turns it into a joke.
Oh yeah, going all the way back there. That was the ballad of Chaplips Calhoun by the late Sideways Hank O'Malley and the Alabama Bottle Boys. And you know, that was so good, I reckon I'll play it again.
A lot of the music they made was by design made to be as generic as possible. Not in a bad way, but in a this song feels kind of familiar kind of way. Considering that all of these songs were made by people working in the audio department of Rockstar, it's actually kind of impressive how well they did. They even came up with a bunch of fake band names for the track list. As you might have inferred so far in the video, the idea was initially to have the GTA series take place in an alternate reality where musicians that exist in real life don't exist. And instead you have bands like me, and just like many other good ideas, convincing other members of the development team that radio stations were a good addition to the game is something that Colin Anderson struggled with but eventually succeeded in. The end result being a staple in the series that has always made a return since. You know, it's actually kind of amazing how many good ideas came out of it. As a quick example, if you play GTA 1 on PC, and then you eject the game disc after the game's done loading, and insert another disc with music on it, then the music on that disc will play in-game. One idea that Colin had was to include a progressive rock station in GTA 2, the name of the station being Ridiculous FM. The name makes perfect sense, because this was just gonna have one 20-minute song on a continuous loop. Now this was eventually cut, and the plan to keep all of the bands and artists on the radio fictional quickly got ignored. And as time went on, the radio feature became less of a means of providing background music and more of a way for the player to feel immersed in the game. Celebrities were brought in to voice act radio DJs, one of my favorites being Axl Rose as the DJ for KDST.
Classic rock the way it was meant to be enjoyed. On dust.
I can't believe I get to play music for a living, even if it is other people's. Hey, whatever happened to Love Fist?
I mean, say what you want about Axl Rose, but I mean, you know, that's kinda cool.
But wait, there's more.
And in GTA San Andreas, they added the occasional weather forecasts. So as you're playing the game and it's getting kinda cloudy, the DJ will predict or describe the in-game weather.
I'm a DJ! Yay. Not a weatherman, but in case you're busy or too blind to see, it's gonna be foggy as your mind outside.
I love stuff like that, because it's the little things that add so much to the experience. And even some actors who played side characters in other games by Rockstar made appearances on the radio as other characters. A good example, in my opinion, is Matt Monroe, who played Wade in Bully.
How can I get in her pants? Cologne. Dad always wears cologne.
Here's him appearing in GTA 4 as a different character.
Prepare to sit through a 4-hour journey.
I've got a quest. I must defeat evil and sell franchise rights to theme parks. Dragon Brain!
And the same thing applies to some of the characters you meet as you play through the story.
I want to get in on this rap thing. Do I have to break dance, you know, do the windmill? Hey, can you body pop?
Come on, Lazlow. You know OG ain't no playboy. I ain't down with that shit. It ain't gangster. I walk the walk. You know what I'm saying?
Fresh. Yo, I'm down.
And by the way, one of the best ideas they had, just hands down, was inventing a fictional 80s heavy metal band in GTA Vice City.
Lock up your daughters. Shoot your sons.
Dead!
Because Love Fist is coming to town.
Sometimes hearing their music on the radio as I'm driving around, and then meeting them during some of the missions added so much to the vibe of the game.
Not to mention 9 hours of music, which is a lot.
And the same can definitely be said about GTA 4's Weasel News. Actively keeping track on the progression of the story while also delivering clever parodies of the news media, Weasel News doesn't just entertain, it also serves as a form of narration. So just imagine this, you've just robbed a bank, you got away and you have the money, but not everything went as planned, and as a result you're now sitting in the car listening to the news describe the event, while you and your bank robber buddies lay low. Oh, and speaking of low, let's talk about Lazlow. Lazlow, as far as I can tell, was the first character created specifically for the GTA radio that ended up also appearing multiple times in the series, not just on the radio frequency, but also in some of the missions. You see, he was initially brought on as a writer as the Grand Theft Auto franchise shifted from the 2D era to the 3D era. Now, his in-game persona's first gig was as a radio DJ in Vice City.
It's Lazlow on V-Rock, the home of all rebellion.
This is the 100% official home of rebellion with me, Lazlow, the rebel rouser, hellraiser in chief. That's right.
He then became a talk show radio DJ in San Andreas.
The most boring show with a brand new host. Entertaining America with Lazlow.
I gotta say it, pardon me, but don't call it a comeback. I've been here for years, just unemployed.
And then, a washed-up has-been interviewing lunatics on the sidewalks of Liberty City in GTA 4.
Whatever, homeboy. Listen, tell me what the kids are into. Yeah, 'cause I gotta connect with the kids. You know, not my private parts, you know, but that's for online. But what are you out doing?
Yo, I'm delivering weed!
And so on and so forth. It just never ends. It just gets worse. I love the fact that they invented this character for something so simple as a radio station, and then slowly over time just ruined this character's life. I don't think he would have existed had it not been for Colin Anderson and the other people involved in making the soundtrack for GTA 1. I mean, obviously the real-life Lazlow would have existed, but you know what I'm saying. Not to mention all of the other awesome ideas Rockstar has had since then. Like, for instance, this beta radio station from GTA 5, Pre-Millennium Radio. Now this was gonna be this really cool alternative rock station hosted by Trent Reznor of Nine Inch Nails. I enjoy some of the rock music in GTA 5, but I mean, come on, you know, Trent Reznor, Nine Inch Nails, alternative rock, industrial, post-grunge. They should have kept that in the game. But as for the commercials on the radio, I feel like you have to give Rockstar credit for being able to take one of the most mundane and annoying things imaginable and then turn it into something that amuses you.
The chicken is a bird with a tiny brain, so we assume he doesn't feel any pain. We shrink their heads and we breed them fast. 6 wings, 40 breasts, and then they're gassed.
You know, when Dan Houser left Rockstar, a lot of you took to social media to bemoan the lack of story writing talent Rockstar now has without him. And look, I get it. I do. But I think we should also remember the other stuff he did for Rockstar. And this is a perfect example of that. And speaking of Dan Houser and radio ads, here is Dan Houser himself doing some voice acting for GTA San Andreas.
You need a nanny! All parents need a helping hand now and then. Discipline gave us an empire. What's more important, your happiness or your children's future?
Oh, and by the way, I looked into it, and yes, Hampshire Nannies is an actual thing that exists. It's obviously not the same company as the one in this ad, but there does exist a nanny service by the same name.
At Hampshire Nannies, we love happy kids.
We'll bring your children up in the classic English manner by making them learn Latin and beating them half to death in a single-sex environment. Hampshire Nannies.
Anyway, in conclusion, I think it's clear that the audio side of Rockstar Games has been, and most likely will continue to be overshadowed by other areas people obsess over. Stuff like realism in graphics, or yet again getting the same unpolished online mode from GTA 5 and Red Dead 2 and GTA 6. It's an aspect of their games that deserves more praise, especially given the immense amount of talent and ideas that go into it. The licensed music being carefully picked so that it emphasizes whatever tone or era the game is meant to have. It's occasionally occasionally heard in the background during cutscenes that allows you to import your own audio files, there's always more detail being added as more games get released. And to top it all off, it has introduced me, and I'm sure many of you, to a vast array of really good music. Some of it well-known, some of it obscure. The point of this video is not to spam you with behind-the-scenes trivia, although I'm sure that's why some of you are watching. The point of this video is to encourage you to appreciate and recognize just how underrated and creative this side of the Grand Theft Auto series has been since the start. Not to mention that the more time passes, the more of those lovely soundtrack updates we get. I think comparing the radio stations in GTA to a good bass player in a rock band is probably the best way I can describe it. I don't know, it's an odd way of putting it, and I'm comfortably numb at the moment, but as far as I can tell, what I said was brilliant. I think you should give this video a like to salute my absolute brilliance in extemporaneous speaking. Anyway, that's it for this video. You folks, as always, stay classy. Peace.